benefits. What are benefits? It's a really intimate thing. It's like the most intimate thing you can do with another person. Eventually, whether someone speaks up or on it or not, somebody's gonna catch feelings.
Hi, I'm Kenn,
And I'm Prospero.
and you're watching Caught Up.
So my question is, how much influence should friends and family have on your relationship decisions? I think they should have a little bit of influence because sometimes friends and families can see things you can't. But at the same time, you shouldn't let them have so much say-so in those relationships or your decision for relationships. For example, you could be dating someone and you don't notice little behaviors, but your friends and your family do. And that's when you should be able to recognize that and, maybe take into consideration their advice or, how they feel about it.
I think they should have a little bit of influence, but at the same time, I kind of agree with Prospero that they shouldn't really impact the entire relationship. Yes, take advice. I think also you kind of have to use your own discernment, if you feel like that's a good person or not, and then that's kind of coupled with how you feel about your friends and family personally. Because I know that I've dated people that I didn't want to bring around my friends or family, but then I've dated other people that maybe my friends and family didn't really connect with. So that's kind of hard to navigate. I think that sometimes it's hard to gauge those situations though, because is it a situation where this person isn't a good person or do they just not like them? So I think that that's really when you have to kind of determine okay, is this the relationship that I want to be in, or is this something that I should reconsider?
I know I said I don't let it have that much influence, but I think maybe you should try to consider it a little bit more, because sometimes when you're in those relationships, you end up getting really, really close, and those emotions can sometimes, take away all kind of logic and stuff like that until eventually you get burned bad enough or something bad happens and kind of realize that then.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's hard for me to think about questions like this because I know in my case, my last thing, my sister was very hesitant about it because I've dated people in the past, so she was almost standoffish. So it wasn't necessarily that the person wasn't good for me or the situation wasn't good, but it was kind of my own past behaviors that influenced her decision on how she treated that person. And I know a lot of times I don't even really let people meet my mom, so I don't consider her opinion when I make decisions about who I'm gonna date. So those are the only things that the only other things I can think about that. Do you think that friends with benefits is a viable option, or do you think that it'll just lead to ruining a friendship? Do you want me to answer?
Okay. Question, yeah.
So I think friends with benefits is a good option if that's what you're looking for. If you're going into it and you're mature enough to have those conversations about what that means for the friendship afterwards, if you can really just communicate what you need out of that relationship, I guess. And then upholding your own boundaries within that, because there's a lot that goes into having friends with benefits. So it can ruin a friendship. It really can. I've seen it happen. But at the same time, I almost feel it could also make somebody closer to their friend, or just provide another outlet of okay, I really do like this person, but it's not the commitment of having to be in a relationship, but we're allowed to explore those feelings.
Okay, so I think friends with benefits, it might be viable for a little bit, but not for a long term, because friends with benefits, what are benefits? It's a really intimate thing. It's the most intimate thing you can do with another person. Eventually, whether someone speaks up or on it or not, somebody's gonna catch feelings, in my opinion anyway. And yeah, maybe for a little bit, but I think in the long run, it's probably not viable. I don't really, well, it depends how long of a run it is, but I can't give a timeline, but I think eventually at some point somebody will end up catching feelings just because what you're doing with that other person, how intimate that is.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you said what are the benefits that we're talking about, and then also like with the feelings, I know a lot of times like if I had friends with benefits, I would eventually start to get jealous. Like if they were like giving somebody else like attention that I felt like I wanted.
Yeah.
Granted, now if it's a situation where I don't really care to be in a relationship with that person and I'm literally just looking for the benefits or the sex or whatever it is, I think that that's when it's easier to continue relationships like that. Because there's really not a pressure of like, oh, I care about this person or I want to see if this goes any further. But I do think that there's always that chance of like, okay, I'm sharing this intimate part of myself with somebody else. Like I am going to catch feelings for them at some point. Like we're literally having sex. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Caught Up.
Make sure y'all tune in next week.
If you enjoyed this episode of Caught Up, you can check out more down below and some of the other videos on the channel. Also, hit that subscribe button and hit the notification so you can always watch Caught Up and just more live content. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Peace.